In the video I did last week about the DT Swiss recall, I spoke about the backing plastic being a possible cause. So I thought I'll show you what some of the backing plastic looks like. So this is sort of a more expensive pre-preg, and you can see it's the backing plastic is fairly thick, opaque plastic, and it's got a waxed paper on the back. Here's another type which is again bright coloured, blue on one side, green on the other side, pretty obvious. And then this is some other material which is sort of more typical of the bike industry, and that's the backing plastic actually on the film. It's got a waxed paper on the back, but if we grab a scalpel and try and pick that off, it's even hard to pick off with the scalpel. But you can see there we go. A bit hard to do and hold in front of the camera as well, but that's how thin and transparent it can be, so it's easy to get stuck. So that was the theory last week, but since then I've actually had a pair of wheels be dropped off to me by a local rider who said they were definitely on the recall, and I looked up the serial number and they are on the recall. And so what I found, so here's the front wheel. It's a here we go, the ARC 1100 I should say. What I found when I on the visual inspection, in the up in this area here in the bed, like so as it showed on the on the diagram, under really close inspection you can see a void all along that interface inside there. So this is the area that we're looking at as from the DT recall notice. And as you can see on the actual rim, on this front rim that we've got here, there is a surface void in that location. So, you know, there's insufficient material to be filled during the curing and the moulding of this rim. So this continues further down the rim, as you'll see here. Same sort of thing. So it's quite consistent on that area of the wheel, on this particular one anyway, that there's insufficient material in this section of the rim. So that certainly would result in the type of failure and the problems that have been identified as part of their recall. The other interesting thing is it says made in Taiwan, whereas on the recall notice they say that the rims are made in Vietnam. But anyway, that's another story. So that was the front wheel and had those voids. And then I had to look at the rear wheel and I didn't see those voids. And so I thought let's do a scan and see what we can find in that area. And so did basically an ultrasound scan of that area, and the laminate thickness on the front wheel adjacent to the tyre bed was 0.42 of a millimetre thick. Now I thought I'll measure the rear wheel, and on the rear wheel it was roughly about 0.90 of a millimetre thick. So it appears that the laminate thickness on the front wheel is half of what the laminar thickness is in exactly the same location on the rim as on this particular rear wheel. So one theory now is that maybe they forgot to put some plies in. So instead of leaving backing plastic in, if they forgot to put the plies in, then there's going to be a problem, right? So if you only put half the material in, because it's about half the thickness, so whether they use lighter weight material or put half the plies in. So that's the thing. Now the reason why there can be voids is the way this area of the rim would typically be made. It would be dependent on the thickness at the outer of the tool faces on the outer side. So because you're trying to expand or press outwards in the tyre bed, and because that internal dimension needs to be controlled and the external dimension needs to be controlled, the amount of material that you put into that gap, if you like, is really critical. So if you don't have enough material in there, then what's going to fill that space is effectively air, and you're going to have voids. And as we know, air is not very strong, so you can have failures. So it certainly looks like on this particular wheel set that I've looked at here, and thanks to the riders who could drop those off for the inspection. So on this particular set, I would not ride the front wheel, and the back wheel is also part of the recall, but at least the wall thickness appears to be twice of what the front wheel is. So, I mean, this is a sample of one. It would be really nice to, cut some rims open. So, DT Swiss, if you want to send me some rims, I'm happy to investigate this further and help you out and try and solve the cause of this. But yeah, my theory at the moment, based on what I've seen, is that insufficient material was put in that area, and that's what's created the problem. So anyway, let me know what you think. Like, comment and subscribe, and yeah, we'll see you next time.